Namaskar. Know the meaning of namaskar? What is it?
मतलब हमारा सिर आपको झुक रहा है, आपको मतलब acknowledging and respecting and the next person that you're leaning down to. This is what we put down.
60% correct. I bow to the God in you. That's the actual meaning, है ना? I think so. Okay, so let me talk a little bit. Little bit about meditation, little bit about mindfulness, little bit about everything, huh? So let me today say a little bit about how to summarize the Buddha's teaching. What is the essence? The Buddha himself said, do not do anything that is negative, and do perfectly well all the good things. Completely discipline your mind. This is my teaching. In 4 lines, in 1 verse. Do not do anything that is negative. Now think carefully. He did not say, do not do some of the negative things. He said, do not do anything that is negative. Now with this question of negative and positive, there are people who say there is nothing negative, nothing positive. It depends from person to person. But what the Buddha actually was saying was, those activities of body and speech and mind which directly, indirectly harms other sentient beings is negative. Because by nature we all want happiness, do not want suffering. So anybody who interferes in others' happiness and brings misery and suffering, very negative. I would say it's horrible. Even if you cannot help, do not harm. You take yourself as an example. How would you feel if somebody mistreats you, bullies you, exploits you? So take the same example. With that example, don't do that to others. So do not do anything that is negative. Clear? Is that enough? Not enough. Not doing negative is good, but that's not enough. You need to do the positive things also. And when it comes to doing the positive things, he says, do perfectly well the positive practices. Perfectly well. Perfectly well means even when you develop compassion, it should be perfect in the sense the motivation should be good. The actual work should be good. The dedication and conclusion should be good. So right from the beginning till to the end, it should be good. ऐसा नहीं कि शुरू में बहुत उद्योजित हो रहा है, फिर बीच में थोड़ा ढीला पड़ गया, then conclusion में कुछ है ही नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. Whatever work you do, start should be good, actual practice should be good, conclusion should be good. So here also, the virtuous deeds or good deeds are those deeds which directly or indirectly help others, physically, verbally, mentally. Because doing good things is actually, if you look carefully, you can do some research on this. Doing good things is in harmony with the law of nature. But I'm making a big statement here. Doing bad things is not in harmony with nature. If you look at the nature also, when the heat of the sun, the moisture, the seed, the manure, when everything is in harmony, then the plant grows, flourishes. When there's a little bit of disharmony, it will either rot or it will get dried, decayed, things like that. Similar with our life also. when your body, speech and mind is in harmony, when what you say and what you do is in harmony, then things will flourish, people will also trust you. But contrarily, if you lead life of duplicity, say one thing, do another thing. हाथी का दांत दिखाने के लिए कुछ और खाने के लिए कुछ, ऐसे होने से फिर नहीं चलता है. हमेशा स्वच्छता बोलते हैं ना, स्वच्छता भारत. It's not only cleaning the dust outside, cleaning the dust inside. So in Buddhism, we also do like satkar karna, pranam karna. In Tibetan we call it chak selva. 2 words, chak selva. So chak basically means when you pay homage, what you are doing is, not only physically prostrating, but what you are doing is, you are imagining that I'm cleaning all the defilements and dust within myself. Defilement here means all the negativities, negative emotions. I will purify it, clean it, and then seek the good qualities of love, of compassion that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have cultivated. That's the meaning. And that's why you bow down. In India we have this wonderful tradition of touching the feet and things like that. But unfortunately people may not have the idea, just they do it. But if you really understand it, it's really beautiful. Because in life, if you are humble, if you have humility, then you are providing space in your mind to receive all the higher qualities. But if you get puffed up with little knowledge is dangerous, as we say. You get puffed up. With little money, you get puffed up. With little title, you get puffed up. Little prosperity and success, little health and well-being, you get puffed up. Then pride goeth before a fall, as we say in English. फिर गिर जाता आदमी. Like take the example of Mao Zedong. In the beginning, he was also working for the goodness of the peasants, the farmers. But once he got the power, he got completely drunk by the power. Power corrupts. Power, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. It's true, you get intoxicated. Then you lose your identity. You actually lose touch with your real inner core, the real identity, the real you. That is the problem. All these religious studies, philosophical studies, thinking, all these are basically for the purpose of discovering yourself. And to some extent, the more and more we get different kind of so-called knowledge, the more and more we are taken away from our inner reality. If you look at a little child, innocent child, that child is more pure, less duplicity. That little child will cry, yell, whatever he feels, he will say it. And he will also be very easily pleased. If you give something and pat on the back, something like that, he'll wholeheartedly laugh and smile. There's no enmity, no resentment, nothing. Now the so-called educated people like us, we are very good in revenging. अच्छा उसने हमको ऐसे बोला, इसको देख लूँगा बाद में. You see? And with this kind of resentment which you keep in your mind, who is going to suffer? Not so much the person which you thought you will harm, it's primarily you. So therefore, when you develop these negative emotions like anger, it's really like, as somebody very nicely said, when you get anger with the hope to harm that other person, actually it is like drinking poison and expecting the other people die. And that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama is always saying that with regard to our contact with the Chinese, our relationship with the Chinese, even the Chinese communist leaders, even with them, even though they did awful lot of bad things, but even then, an amicable solution should be found by non-violence means, by compassionate means. That's the solution. That's the solution. है ना? So therefore our enemy number one, the real enemy is not outside, it is inside us, the negative emotions. By the way, what is the definition of an enemy? Enemy is someone who harms you, who harms your relatives, who harms your country, who harms your property and things like that. We call it enemy. Now look at these negative emotions inside yourself. Anger will harm your peace, destroy your sleep. There's nobody who says that I was very angry, so I slept very peacefully. Nahi hai na koi bhi. And there is also nobody who right in the morning makes a motivation saying that today I will get angry. But we do get angry when we encounter different difficult situations, circumstances, things, so forth. But having got angry, having developed anger, and in some cases even after having picked up a fight with somebody in the day, in the course of the day, then in the evening, when you return home and think about what you did in the day, again there is nobody who will say that I was very angry, I fought with somebody, I really enjoyed the day. Aisa hai nahi hai. Sometimes maybe a little bit of satisfaction, but no. So I'm just giving you the example of one negative emotion. There are countless negative emotions. Then anger, for example. So therefore you need to really do a long-term research, not just following Buddhist teaching or anything, but use your mind, reasoning capacity, scientific findings, how good and bad these negative emotions and so forth. Now anger, for example. If I give a small, simple example, all of us wish to be a presentable person. Beautiful women, handsome men. That's why we decorate ourselves, use all heavy cosmetics, comb our hair. सब कुछ सजाते हम लोग, and use heavy ornaments. After having decorated yourself, ornamented yourself to such an extent, after that if you get angry, like with all these ornaments that you put on, with all these nice clothes, you look awful. You are now a demon, or demoness, or whatever. Horrible. Now if you look at the image of a Buddha, or you met His Holiness Dalai Lama, he doesn't have earrings or doesn't put heavy cosmetics, things like that. He's very handsome. Even when he's 87 years old, he's very handsome. Because he has this love and affection to others. Because he smiles. You know, when you have, so the real beauty comes from within. There is one, teaching by the Buddha, a sutra, which says, if you maintain this calmness of mind and compassionate and peaceful, then there will be a proper flow of blood, circulation of the blood throughout your body, including your face. When there is proper flow of blood, your cheeks look radiant. When it is not there, externally on the skin you put so many heavy things, but inside it's rotten or unhappy, and then gradually you will see all the cracks. Things like that. Things like that. You see? So the real source of beauty, peace, happiness is inner ornamentation, inner development. And the beauty with these things is once you develop these inner qualities will never become excess baggage. The external material collections, you have all this experience when you check in at the airport. Nowadays they permit only 15 kilos. 15 kilos plus 7 kilo class that you can carry with you. If you carry more than that, they will say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage, you have to pay for this. And Buddha said this a long time back. You came into this world with nothing, you will go with nothing, so why so much fuss in between? Be contented, have less things, develop inner quality. That's what he was saying. Now in today's modern world, these are all what the Buddha said, are all one by one proved. The truth and usefulness of these teachings are proved. They all become excess baggage. And very difficult when you carry so many things. So difficult. Then at the end of the day, as I said yesterday, whether you like it or not, it will be only you who has to take care of yourself, who has to look after yourself. And in fact, the good thing with taking care of yourself is, your taking care of yourself is actually taking care of others. For example, if you really love your parents, father, mother, and so forth, loving your parents doesn't mean you go there and always say, Mama, I love you, Papa, I love you. It's not constantly making that declaration. But if you do all the tasks that is necessary, take good care of yourself, you're healthy, nice looking, parents will be so happy. They don't have to worry about you see. Right? So take care of yourself to take care of others. Taking care of others is taking care of yourself. Both the ways. Taking care of yourself is taking care of others. That's why in the Tibetan tradition, we repeatedly offer this long life offering to His Holiness Dalai Lama. It's elaborate. On 24th, I don't know you are here or not. On 24th, there are I think 5-6 different organizations are making this long life offering. People who have no understanding, they might think, this is ludicrous, You will see people carrying so many things, clothes, scriptures, images, and so many things, money, so many things, and offering to His Holiness. And especially the communists might say, see, this is what the Dalai Lama is doing. Because they don't understand. But the meaning behind this long life offering is not just this offering objects, but the people's expression of love and affection, respect. When His Holiness sees this respect, affection, and love, His Holiness also feels, yes, I should live longer. They are showing this love and affection to me means that I'm useful to them. And I always give the example. For example, if there is a couple who are in harmony, love each other, and let us say the wife remains in the home and the husband goes to work, let us say 9 to 5 work. And if they are in harmony, if they love each other, as soon as the job finishes there, the husband will immediately come home, thinking that my dear wife is waiting, my dear children are waiting. The distraction. Right? But when they are not in harmony, I've seen myself people like that. Even when the work finishes at 5, they will just loiter, move around in Mangalore-Ganj and elsewhere, and come home 7 p.m. or things like that. The wife is desperately angry and waiting, Why you have come late? When everybody comes back at 5. Oh, I met a friend, they tell all the lies, things like that. So through this kind of constant friction, disunity, of course, if you lead a life of depression, frustration, fight, and anger, your life will be shortened. You see? So this is the simple reason that to express love and affection, help each other, it's actually prolonging your life. It's not so much about how much medicine you eat, things like that. If you are really very proper in terms of the food you eat, in terms of, cultivating all these inner qualities, it's really a source of success, individual success, success of community, society, the whole world. So the solution, as we discussed before, the solution is to come from within, not from outside. A little bit from outside maybe, but primarily from yourself. So therefore, do everything, positive and do it perfectly. Now when we say this, then people say, oh, why the monks, Tibetan monks, spend so many hours, so many years studying Buddhist philosophy. Like monks spend at least 20-25 years in major monasteries and study so rigorously, debating, using tark Why they study so much? Because at the end of the day, it is just to be good and not to be bad. But it is not as simple to become good and not to become bad. It's not so simple. Therefore, the third line says, completely train your mind, discipline your mind. Because whether you are good or not depends upon your mental attitude. How well your mind is trained. What is your perspective? What is your mental outlook? What is your mental attitude? So therefore, it says perfectly train your mind. Now this is the crucial point. Train your mind. You need to train your mind, as I briefly indicated, because your mind is your boss. Normally we point to the husband and say, he is my boss, or to the wife and say, she is my boss. No. Even Prime Minister, no. Not in the true sense of the term. The true boss, your true boss is your mind. And your mind, unlike any other bosses in the form of human being, your mind is there with you 24 hours. बाथरूम भी आ जाता है साथ में, थिएटर में भी आ जाता है साथ में, चाय पीते वक्त भी वो है, माइंड हर जगह. Now look at this. So this mind, which is constantly with you and constantly dictating you what to do, what not to do, now if that mind is stupid, short-sighted, foolish, negative, angry, it is 100% sure that you will have a very disruptive life. Contrarily, if your mind is with wisdom, with insight, calmness, peace, your mind will be, even under very turbulent situations in life, your mind will be calm. Because even if there is turbulence outside, inside there is no turbulence. And I've seen some people, for example, if there is suddenly a big building catches fire, most of the people, they're so scared, they have no idea what to do. So scared, they're actually doing nothing, just, oh, kya karoon, my God, going up, going down, Nobody doing anything. But I've seen few people who, under such a situation, they remain calm and then see what we should be doing. Then, it's from electricity, go there and put the light off there. Or maybe it started from there, douse it by, putting water there, whatever. They're able to manage it. So in life also, in order to deal with any kind of difficulty and stress, your mind should always be calm. So therefore, in Buddhism, we talk about the three trainings. Training of morality, training of concentration, and training of wisdom. Actually, we call it three shiksha. Shiksha means basically education, right? So this is very good translation, actually, I think. We use the term three precepts or three trainings. You can do that, but actually, I think it's education. So if we adopt this in our education, in our curriculum, it will be very effective, very, very useful. So the three are, number one, shil, morality, shil. Second, samadhi, concentration. Third, prajna, wisdom. There is three things. Now with this number one, aspect of education, which is shil. Shil is Hindi word, Sanskrit word, which comes from shitalta. That means coolness of the mind. Very beautiful explanation. Coolness of the mind. If your mind, ठंडे दिमाग से सोचो बोलते हैं ना हम लोग, ठंडे दिमाग से सोचो बोलते हैं ना. If दिमाग is ठंडा, it's cool, calm, peaceful, then you can develop all the positive qualities. Morality is compared to a ground or a field. If the field is well cultivated, well prepared, then you can get very good crop. Plant the seed and it is sure that you will get very good crop. Let me give you one example. I have one Tibetan friend who went to study in Japan. He went to study agriculture. So after many years he came back, and one day we were just talking over a cup of tea. Then he said, in Japan, they don't grow crooked turnips. तो मैंने क्या बोला क्या बकवास कर रहा है? You know, whether the turnip is crooked or not, how it grows. What do you mean? In Japan, you don't grow crooked turnips. He said, no. Whether the turnip is straight or crooked depends upon how well you have prepared and cultivated the land. If you remove all the obstructions, रुकावट जितना भी है उसको निकाल देने से, पत्थर या कांटा जो भी उसको निकाल देने से, they are all straight. If they are all straight, you save a lot of space when you do the packaging. That's why you earn a lot of money. You see. Similarly, now they are talking about, producing skewer watermelon. अभी तो गोला चल रहा है ना. They are thinking about that also. So this is for me was a very good example. When your mind is obstructed by so many things, your mind will become crooked. When you remove all these obstructions, your mind will be calm. When your mind is calm, then you can grow all the crops of good qualities. Compassion भी उगा सकता है, bodhicitta भी उगा सकता है, loving kindness can also be cultivated, wisdom can also be cultivated. Anything is possible. So therefore, morality is extremely important. Now, with regard to the proper explanation of morality, Shila. Sometimes we use the word morality, sometimes we use the word ethical discipline, sometimes just discipline. But what is important for you to understand is the Tibetan concept of morality has no connotation of obeying a discipline which is reluctantly imposed upon you. You see, in a school, ऐसा करो नहीं तो I'll punish you. डर की वजह से, not moving, not saying anything, remaining rigid, kind of discipline. We are not talking about this. In Buddhism, when we talk about morality, we are not talking about any of this discipline which is imposed upon you unwillingly, which you have to do reluctantly. Therefore, when we talk about morality, there are three types of morality, which you should do for your own goodness. Number one, the first type of morality is restraining the negative deeds. Restraining the negative deeds. If you restrain negative deeds, you may be standing, you may be sitting, you may be laughing, whatever, you are observing morality. If you don't restrain negative deeds, you may be sitting in a nice meditative posture. You are not practicing morality. So number one, restraining negative deeds. Do not commit any negative deed. Similar. Second, the morality of accumulating virtuous qualities. This basically means doing good things. As I already said, it's not enough not to do bad things, but you should also do good things. Cultivating love, cultivating compassion, cultivating bodhicitta, all the good things. The third is the very purpose of not committing negative deeds and accumulating positive deeds is so that you are able to benefit the majority of suffering sentient beings. So third morality is benefiting sentient beings. So that is, now we don't have much time to talk about the secular ethics and things like that. Next time if there is a opportunity, we'll do that. And also now, since, before I forget, since you people are showing so much interest, in the future also, if you're interested, you can organize group tours so that we can study a particular text a little bit longer. Yeah.
I don't understand the difference between the last two things you have mentioned, the morality of accumulating positive deeds
Yeah.
and benefiting the
Sentient beings.
So
Yeah.
two are similar.
Similar but not same. Because the very reason and purpose of not doing bad things and doing good things is to benefit others. So there is a greater emphasis on benefiting sentient beings, not just accumulating good things. Yes, you are right in the sense that benefiting other sentient beings is also a good thing. It's a part of the thing. But that has to be specified so that you can clearly understand the end purpose is to benefit other people. Okay, other sentient beings. Then so I was saying that in the future, if you are really interested, you can organize. Okay. We have no intention at all that you become Buddhist. Okay, I'm not saying because of this. I'm not going to get anything. If you become Buddhist or not Buddhist, that doesn't make any inch of difference to me or to His Holiness. Okay, but what is important is we should get these wisdoms. As you can clearly see how beneficial these things are. It's not because it came from my mouth, but what is coming from me is basically what is taught by Buddha and Indian great masters, not just Tibetan masters. And we need this into this world. Right? सिर्फ पैसे के पीछे दौड़ करके अंगुली मला की तरह दौड़ के मुंह लटका के दौड़ के कुछ मिलने वाला नहीं है. At the end of the day, you really don't get much unless you have this calmness of mind. है ना? है कि नहीं? Long time back, many years back, when I was probably working in His Holiness office, or maybe even before that, I was invited to give a series of talks. I was very young at that time, to give a series of talks in Mumbai. I used to give regular teachings in Mumbai before the pandemic. So I was invited to give talks there. So one of the program was to give a talk in a university full of young people like you. I was actually a little bit reluctant to speak to them because they were all like very clever, intelligent young people, well versed with so many things. To a Buduram, wearing this clumsy cloth, not looking smart, inse kya sikhna hai, There were people who said this with His Holiness also. When he participated during one conference, there was one lady scientist who said, what the religious people have to do with science? But when they started discussing, then she was showing more and more interest. Like that. So the point is, when I started speaking, that really kind of surprised me and also shocked me was when I started speaking, these young boys and girls, they were listening to me as if I am telling something which they never heard before. And in fact, it looks they have never heard this before, because that is not what is taught in those schools. So there is a need for this kind of spiritual guidance, extremely important. Nothing to do with Buddhism, nothing to do with any religion. If you want to affiliate with any religion, that's okay, but you should get that perennial wisdom, perennial philosophy applicable to everybody. That is important, right? So my point was, in the future also, if it is interesting, it is useful, I'm not asking you that you continue to listen to me or anything like that. But you should organize and invite whoever and have discussions, things like that. Okay? So, the second kind of education is concentration, about which I spoke to you a little bit yesterday. Concentration. For the sake of easier understanding, I'll read a little bit. So, concentration comes as a part of meditation. The Sanskrit word for meditation is actually bhavana, which means cultivation. I think this idea came from cultivation of land. How, as I already mentioned, how you cultivate the land, prepare the land and grow things. So similarly, the mind should also be, prepared and cultivated in that sense. So therefore, bhavana for meditation. So this general term, meditation or bhavana, is used in Buddhism for any type of meditational practice involving continuous attention by the mind to any suitable object. Continuous attention by the mind to any suitable object. Now, generally speaking, any object is suitable. Just for achieving concentration, you can choose any object. Not necessary to have the image of Buddha or anything. You can choose a flower, you can choose whatever you want. And make sure that your mind stays on that object, nothing else comes in your mind. Okay, that itself is not easy. So we'll do 1 to 3 minutes meditation on that. Then you will see by yourself how easy it is. I'll give you one of the easiest object, which is your breath. सांस जो बार बार तुम ले रहा है उसी पर. Okay. So just make sure that your mind stays on that breath, which goes out, which comes in. Don't force yourself. Just watch that natural rhythm of the breath. And imagine your mind is somewhere at the nostril here. And when the breath goes out, just go with it, come back with it. And one exhalation, inhalation, we count it as 1. So to start with, let us do it 5 times, slowly, gently. And make sure that your mind stays only on that, not on monkey, not on McLeod-Ganj, not on the rain or anything else. So let us see. Let us do the experiment. Okay? Okay? How was it? Are you able to focus just on the breath or any other thing came? You're all successful?
Both.
Both? What?
Thinking and breathing.
Huh? Now, okay. Now forget the breath. Think about maybe your mother or father. And meditate for 3 minutes. Just remember the face of your mother, father, brother, whoever. And don't let anything else come in your mind. Okay? How was it? Successful?
So I was not just thinking about my mother as, but we were thinking about all the incidents, all the emotions that we went through.
With others
Not just
also?
the events.
With others also, something like that? You will notice many things here. When you concentrate on whatever object, your senses become more sharp, more alert. As soon as you focus, you will start hearing the sound of the chirping birds, or pain in your neck, or tension in your back. Normally we don't notice. There's the greatness of concentration. When you concentrate, you are able to see so many things more clearly. Second, when you try to imagine or see the face of your mother and father, your loving father and mother, I'm talking. Okay? Even with your loving father and mother, when you try to recall their face, is that very clear? It is like hazy, yeah?
I was very surprised.
Yeah, na? So that means our meditation on their face is not very good. Because when you do meditation, then the object of your meditation becomes clearer, and gradually it is said that the face of that object will be so clear to your mind as if you are really looking at that person directly.
I got that experience.
You got that experience? Wow, you are an advanced meditator. Possible different people have different capacities. Very good, very good.
I couldn't, and I was very surprised at that. Like, why would one of those images not really clear to me?
Yes, exactly. I once met a Western nun who came to me and said, Geshe, before I meditated, I was a nice person. After I meditated, I become a bad person. That's also interesting. Another purpose of meditation is when you don't meditate, you have no idea who is coming, who is going in your mind. The door and windows of your mind is open 24 hours. चोर भी आ रहा है, डाकू भी आ रहा है, सब कुछ आके आपका लूट के छीन के जा रहा है, आपको कुछ भी पता नहीं. गहरे नींद में सो रहा है, खराटे मार रहा है. So another purpose of meditation is now to see who is coming, who is. I mean, in ordinary life, you would not allow anybody to come like that. Especially in today's world, we need to seek appointment. Now look at this. This is what we do with the physical reality, but with the mental reality, चौकीदार भी नहीं है, पहरेदार भी नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं है. एंगर आ रहा है आने दो, जेलसी आ रहा है आने दो, अटैचमेंट आ रहा है आने दो, सेल्फ ग्रास्पिंग आ रहा है आने दो. So therefore, now, since this Gurukul thing, you need to say what? Gone are the days. You need to say this firmly and strongly to the negative emotions. Gone are the days when you cheated me, when you exploited me, when you deceived me, when you created disharmony, and all the negative. Gone are the days. Gone are the days means in those days I have no idea. Now I got some sense, now I have some knowledge who you are, how destructive your stupid negative emotions are, how bad your anger is. It's really like, for example, when you make friendship with somebody, for the first few days that person looks really nice, He'll buy you so many things. चलो घूमने चलते हैं, वहाँ चलते हैं, नाइट क्लब चलते हैं, वहाँ. Looks very nice. You also get carried away with the charm of that person. Then the more and more you spend time, you start seeing the ugly side of that person. The more and more you see the ugly side of the person, the more you will attempt to distance yourself from that person. Because association with such a person is unhealthy and destructive. The damage done to you by negative emotion is much, much more than these people. These people, after with the fight and so many things, at least you will be able to get separated from that person. But negative emotions are inside you. Not only inside you, we have this very stupid, peculiar tendency of thinking that anything that is with me is good. बुराई जो है वो उनके पास है, मेरे पास नहीं है. That's how we think. इसने किया, उसने किया, मैंने कुछ नहीं किया, है ना? So you have this, unfortunately, because of this, as I said, because of this grasping to self, that anything you do, anything associated with you, you think it's good, it is clean, it is nice. And I sometimes give a talk called Smelly Socks, just to illustrate the point. If it is your smelly socks, even if it is really smelly, just to check whether it's smelly or not, you might sometimes bring the sock up to your nose and smell it. Don't laugh. I'm sure some of you did this, no? Huh? Because it's your socks. Even if it's smelly, you don't worry so much about that. But when it is socks belonging to others, even if it is a brand new socks, they'll say, "Oh, socks." You see? Right? So therefore, when somebody gets angry, he's gussadar admi, he's an angry person. No. But when you get angry, you always say, I have a reason to get angry. Right? So therefore, the point that I'm making is, these negative emotions in general are destructive, and especially when you see these negative emotions as your almost like personal belongings, your attributes, you tend to, instead of trying to remove them, you tend to protect it, guard it, solidify it, strengthen it. Instead of thinking about removal, you tend to support it. Right? So therefore, you now need to see carefully how to dislodge these negative emotions which is strongly entrenched in your mind. So the process of Dharma practice, especially the Buddhist practice, I explain in simple terms, is like the process of election. When we do an election these days, we have many parties, but let us simplify it and let us say there are two parties. The parties of positive emotion and parties of negative emotion. Okay? Now the parties of positive emotion also has a president and prime minister. The party of negative emotions also has a president and prime minister. Now who is the president and prime minister of the negative emotion? Huh? Now this you should manme raglena. I'm now saying a very important thing, heart of Buddhist teaching. So the president of the negative emotion and the prime minister of the negative emotion. So let us say prime minister of the negative emotion is self-cherishing attitude. And the prime minister is self-grasping. Self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. These are the two bosses of negative emotions. Now I call the self-grasping as the prime minister because prime minister is the one who really executes, who has the power. President, sometimes we call white elephant, right? He's a ceremonial figure, not much power, but so at least less power. So I call it self-cherishing attitude. Now self-cherishing attitude, now understand these two words correctly first. Self-cherishing attitude, when we talk about removal of self-cherishing attitude, we are not at all saying you should not take care of yourself. Now here when we talk about removing self-cherishing attitude, we are talking about removing those mental attitudes where you only think about yourself and completely ignore the well-being of other people. सिर्फ अपने बारे में सोचना. Just thinking about oneself. This is poisonous. And this is of course supported by self-grasping. Self-grasping means here self does not refer to a person or individual. Here self means anything that has independent existence. Right? So seeing things as having independent existence, that is called self-grasping, which is the ignorance, the misconception of reality. Because reality is things have only dependent existence and not independent existence, which we discussed yesterday. So any mind that sees things as having inherent independent existence, that is misconception of reality. So then led by this president, prime minister, there are a host of negative emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, and so many things. वो एक party बन गया. Now positive party का leader, president कौन है? I mean, I'm just saying president, prime minister for you to understand, but it doesn't have to be absolutely correct. So anyway, the two bosses on the positive emotions are bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, shunyata. This wisdom, understanding, shunyata is the direct antidote to self-grasping. And bodhicitta is antidote to self-cherishing attitude. समझ में आ गया ना? एक बार मैं वहाँ बैठा था, जब मैं छोटा था, डलहौजी में मेरा पढ़ाई हो रहा था. I was in maybe 9th, 10th class. So हमारे पड़ोसी में एक पुलिस का टुकड़ी था, police force there. So sometimes we meet and talk to each other. So this police gentleman told me a story of a junior police who goes to the boss, and the boss gives some instruction, and he asks the junior police, समझ में आ गया? बोलता जी हाँ सर समझ में आ गया. सब कुछ समझ में आ गया? जी हाँ सब कुछ समझ में आ गया. क्या समझा? सर कुछ नहीं समझा. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना? ऐसा तो नहीं है ना? When I ask you, did you understand? You're saying yes, समझ में आ गया. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना? क्या समझा? So that's the thing. So now when we talk about doing dharma practice, what we are, so now let us see the reality. The force of negative emotion, force of positive emotion. Which of these two are winning the ruling today? Huh? Negative emotions. The headquarter of our mind is predominantly controlled by self-grasping, ahankar, and avidya. Ahankar and avidya. Or in other words, Atmagrahan, self-cherishing, and self-grasping. They are controlling us. Not only they are controlling us, they have already captured the headquarter of our mind, and nobody is challenging them. They are just relaxing, watching movie, having nice cup of tea. The positive force is so weak. कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. And that is why we see so many problems in the world today. Much of the problem that we see in the world today is clear indication of starvation of human mind. Starvation of human mind. शरीर के लिए तो बहुत कुछ खिला रहे हैं हम लोग. बेचारा मन को कुछ नहीं खिला रहे. कुछ भी नहीं है. खाली दिमाग शैतान का घर. Right? So therefore, now when we talk about doing dharma practice, we are saying that now we will empower, strengthen the positive emotion with their leaders and enthrone them and dethrone the negative emotions. Is that clear? This is heart of Buddhist practice. With doing tantric initiation, or even otherwise they use the word conventional truth and ultimate truth. Conventional truth, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta means bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is not bodhicitta, but ultimate bodhicitta is wisdom realizing emptiness. Because this mind also leads to achievement of enlightenment, therefore it's called ultimate bodhicitta, it's not bodhicitta. Okay? ठीक है ना? So, we were primarily discussing about, concentration, choosing one object and paying attention to it, so forth. The two main kinds of meditation practices in Buddhism are calm abiding, shamatha, and insight meditation, vipassana. So insight meditation is analytical meditation. Shamatha meditation is one-pointed meditation, which we discuss a little bit. So in the vipassana meditation, you should analyze. For example, when we talk about the practice of the four mindfulness of your body, mindfulness of your feeling, mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of the phenomena, and so forth. You analyze from the top of your head down to the sole of your feet. You analyze your body. Similarly, you analyze your feeling, happy feeling, unhappy feeling, neutral feeling, so forth. Through that way, you do that, which is also mentioned in the wisdom chapter in Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatara. Okay? Insight meditation, vipassana. Everyone seems to want to know how to meditate these days, right? From baby boomers to Generation Xers, anxious teen to aging retirees, harried housewives to hurried executives. More and more people are seeking solutions for the stressful, time-urgent, overstimulated lives we lead. Overstimulated. On the one hand, our mind itself is already unruly, wild, and that unruly, wild mind is further fueled by many of these tempting, shiny gadgets and many other things. Right? And then instead of helping your mind calm down, you are encouraged to do so-called multitasking. Multitasking हो ही नहीं सकता. Unless even if you want to do multitasking, the process is first learn how to concentrate. है ना? Because the media and mainstream medicine have failed to provide satisfying answers. Medicine, look at the quality of the medicine these days. I have no clue how good these medicines are. Still people get some benefit from medicine because some medicine may be good, some medicine may be not good, but still people think it will help me, so it helps. Again, your mind is playing a trick. Your mind is playing a role. So as I said yesterday, the most important thing is you should live your life in such a way so that you don't have to go to hospital, don't have to take medicines. The best medicine is the regular food you take. In Buddhism, we call this food medicine. Now, when we call our food medicine, that itself clearly, shows that when you take medicine, you don't take medicine until your stomach is full. Thori lega. Like that, when you eat food also, not too much. Hundreds and thousands of people dying not because of shortage of food, but overeating. अभी दुनिया में दो तरह का है. Luckily, we are, I think, in the middle way. But there are some people who are suffering from obesity. There are others who are suffering from anorexia. You know the word anorexia? Huh? Huh? Yeah, anorexia means, there are ladies who are so much worried about their figure, then they cut down the consumption of food, and then still they have this fear, then they live almost like a skeleton, and it becomes a disease. And then there is no limit to madness. Now in the world there are so many funny things are happening and people are participating without thinking. There is a competition between who is the 6 feet group, 7 feet group. Then you're like 120 group, 120 kg group. The heavier you are, the good it is. In Japan you see the sumo wrestlers. There's no end to human craziness. And I'm nobody to object this, provided if you're really, if you are, getting good health from that, good happiness from that, but it is not actually. Many people are unnecessarily committing suicide in the name of this game, that game, things like that. Just to get a little bit of dollar or a little bit of name. Because the media and mainstream medicine have failed to provide satisfying answers, people are turning to increasing numbers. There's no other alternative. When I visited America many years back, for a few months I worked in a small New Age shop. I was there, so the owner with whom I was staying had a New Age shop where they sell the books, crystals, and things like that. So there I noticed clearly that they were New Age, there's nothing new. They're all actually trying to come back to what we have been doing so many 100,000 years back. Right? So people are turning to increasing numbers to time-honored practices like meditation, time-honored. And that you are your own master. You can do it. You can cultivate calmness of mind and so forth. Time-honored practices like meditation for proven remedies to cure life's ills. This has been tested many times, how your mind makes a difference. I'll give you an example. Because when we keep on talking about the importance of mind for calmness, things like that, people might think maybe, but at the end of the day, what matters is rupiah. Paisa hona chahiye bas. It's understandable because these days, if you have money, you can get almost anything. We are living in such a strange world that if you have, I'm telling you, if you have money, you can almost get everything. You can buy anything, including human beings, including their values. There's a lot of value in money and all these external gadgets and things like that, but the human beings themselves have no value. The one which should have the most important value doesn't have the value. Therefore, they are ready to sell. So therefore, it is important for you to understand through your own personal experience, not just listening to somebody, whether your thinking is really making a difference to your life or not. You need to think. You need to start doing meditation, whatever, cultivation of compassion or whatever. Then see the effect of it, the benefit of it. I'm not just talking, many people who listen to me, they came to me and said their life changed. I'm not a famous person or nothing, but I do get access to, talk to people. And I never advertise myself. So hardly anybody knows me in the world, some people. But there are people who come to me saying that my life changed through thinking. So what I'm saying is not my greatness, but what I'm saying is if you really calm your mind, develop the right perspective, right mental outlook, you can change yourself, you can be happier. You can even reduce your weight by thinking. Because people who are unhappy, people who are stressed, then they eat more. It's scientifically found that these people then they smoke more, eat more to worsen the situation. So let me give you an example. Otherwise people think ये तो ऐसे हवा में खली कर रहा है, माइंड कहाँ है, दिखाई नहीं दे रहा, कुछ छोड़ो इसको, जो चीज़ देख सकता उसी के बात करो. Because we are living in such a world which is ruled basically by science. Science, however great it is, it's only talking about material things. You know how science came into being? In the beginning there was no separate science. It is part of Western philosophy. And when in the Western philosophy, like the Eastern philosophy, in the Western philosophy there is a lot of talking about metaphysics also. Bhagwan hai, ye hai, celestial hai, heaven hai, a lot of talking. So then some clever or intelligent or whatever you want to call it, some people they said, okay, this metaphysical things, God, heaven, all these things, we are not saying it is not there, but we are unable to understand it. So let for the time being, don't talk about it. Kick the meta out. That left physics. This is how science got separated from metaphysics. And then gradually from physics, more and more branch, right? Neuroscience and things like that came into being. Right? So the point I'm making is, so because of this trend and because of this great control by science and technology, people may not pay much attention to the importance of mind, because it is something that you can't see. So thereby people might think, why should we talk about mind? So therefore I want to give you this example, how your mind makes a difference. So let us take the example of two people who are suffering from strong migraine headache. Strong migraine headache, let us say of same intensity, but their mental attitude is different. One believer in maybe good things, another not believer in good things or whatever. So let us take about the first person, the one with positive attitude, how he handles that migraine headache. When he gets this migraine headache, he of course experiences that migraine headache, but because of he has this positive attitude, he will ask the pertinent right questions. Why am I having this migraine headache? Did I sleep late? Am I hungry? am I sad? Headache comes from all these things. Okay? Then he will try to solve it. If there is a need to go to the doctor, he will go it. If there is a need to sleep, he will sleep and take rest. He will also eat food. And when his friends come to see him, he will not be annoyed, he will not be angry. He will simply say, I'm getting a severe migraine headache. And then friends also, they will say, oh, sorry, we'll cook for you, take a rest, let us go to hospital, whatever. They will also help you. They feel comfortable staying with you. And because of this attitude, his migraine headache will be healed much faster, quicker. This is scientifically proved now. And if he is a believer in Buddhism, he will say, oh, this may be my karma. So it's good. The negative result of karma is purified with this migraine headache. And then he will also think, oh, I'm just having migraine headache, but there are millions of people who have no hand, no leg. Some don't even have head. This is exactly what Shakespeare said, He was complaining that he had no shoes on his leg, but after walking a distance, he saw a person without leg. Then he felt heavy. Oh, I'm lucky. It's mental perspective. It's a mental perspective. So therefore, this person will, heal much faster, quicker. Now let us. And if it is a believer in God, he will say, everything is created by God. There must be a reason. Now take the example of that other fellow who has a negative attitude. He will say, why of all people I am getting this headache? He will get really angry. Why of all people I am getting the headache? Why am I singled out? People talk about God. I don't think He is a nasty God. He created everything, including my headache. People talk about Buddha's compassion. Where is His compassion? I am suffering here. He is not helping. Huh? Then he refuse to take medicine, refuse to take food. He will, close the door, close the window, switch off the light. All he will see is darkness. And if his friends come and try to talk to him, said, "Why you are bothering me? I am dying with this migraine headache. You seem to be cheerful. Get lost." So his headache becomes worse. This is scientifically proved. So through this, I want to tell you that your mental attitude makes huge difference. By this explanation, if it is not clear, then I'll give you even more convincing explanation. Let us take the example of marriage. One young boy thinks this girl is so beautiful, marries that. There's another girl who thinks this man is handsome, he marries that. Right? So this girl, whether she is beautiful, this man, whether he is handsome or not, is his or her own perspective. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful thing agreed by everybody, signed by everybody. Yeah, this is the best, most handsome woman marry. So based on your perspective, it works. That's fine. Right? So therefore what I'm saying is, it's your mental attitude. 2005 Newsweek survey, according to 2005, one of the 2005 Newsweek survey, 1/3 American adults meditate daily. So whether you are seeking greater focus, one-pointed concentration, whether you are seeking greater focus to get your job done more efficiently, less stress and more peace of mind, or a deeper appreciation of the beauty and richness of life. The simple practice of sitting down and turning your attention inward can do wonders for your body and your mind. We can learn the basics of meditation in 5 minutes, which we already done. Watch your breath. If you do it regularly, before long, you will feel more relaxed and enjoying life more. For example, sometimes, in today's hurried and stressful life, we sometimes quickly gulp down something, Then we start, not sneezing. Not vomiting. Hiccup, we get hiccup. Yes, you get hiccup. You get hiccup because you are doing everything so quickly, rushed. So these days what I do is when I get hiccup, then I stop eating, take a long breath. few times, he goes completely. Normally people say, drink water, remember the name of that person, where is my needle, whatever. Then also, like when you are flying, if it's very turbulent, you get very scared, I can take a deep breath. It really helps. Pranayama बोलते हैं ना prana. Your prana is related to this breathing. So it's very important. But breathing meditation will have a lot of effect, benefits, but it is basically precursor to meditation. It's not that you keep, watching your breath for your whole life and then die. ऐसा नहीं है. ऐसा भी नहीं होना चाहिए. ठीक है ना? Okay. So as this one says, if you do it regularly, before long you will feel more relaxed, enjoying life more. Meditation also has tremendous subtlety and depth. It is not like painting. You will enjoy your life more because, like this innocent small kids, if you are watchful and enjoy whatever you're doing, when you're eating, eat, when you're singing, sing, when you're talking, talk, when you're listening, just listen. I can't imagine how much progress you will make, how much you will enjoy in your life. अभी ये नहीं हो रहा सब कुछ, क्योंकि we are doing everything with half-hearted attempt. यहाँ भी नहीं, वहाँ भी नहीं, खा भी रहा है, बात भी कर रहा है, मोबाइल फोन भी देख रहा है, कहीं भी नहीं हमको. So we don't live properly actually, right? So that's important. Meditation has an illustrious multicultural history. Nothing to do with a particular religion. Regular practice offers dozens of scientifically proven benefits, from reduced stress and lower blood pressure and cholesterol levels to greater empathy and enhanced activity. If you want to improve the quality of your job, your work, your study, it's not done by rushing and running without planning. You need planning. And proper planning you can do if you come down and sit properly. I've seen many people who are very rushed, they फिर गलती होगा दोबारा आने, फिर गलती होगा. Do it slowly, surely, so you don't have to come back again and again and correct the mistakes, Or that the real cause of suffering and stress is not what happens to you, but how your mind responds. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond. In the same situation, same problem, same difficulty, on certain occasions, you responded so constructively, positively, you are able to handle it very easily. On other occasions, the same situation, same problem, you even don't want to listen and talk about that. Then it creates big headache. Okay? In everyday life, now listen carefully, I've written down so many of these things. In everyday life, your mind is consistently processing a barrage of sensations. क्या क्या नहीं आ रहा है? Visual impressions, emotions and thoughts. When you meditate, you narrow your focus, limit the stimuli bombarding your nervous system, and calm your mind in the process. Think of meditation as a climb up a mountain. You have seen snapshots of summit, and from the bottom you can barely glimpse the summit through the clouds. But the only way to get there is up. There is up, one step at a time. In recent decades, however, Western researchers and teachers have distilled meditation from its spiritual origins and now offer it as a remedy for a variety of 21st century ills. That is also important. Okay? Don't just keep on talking about nirvana, enlightenment, which is almost like unreachable, and don't know how to live your proper life, how to deal with stress and things like that. So that should be there. So few techniques developed over the centuries. There are many techniques developed over the centuries. For example, you can calm your mind by repetition of meaningful word or phrase known as mantra. Jab bhi karna chahiye. Mindful awareness of the present moment, as we discussed repeatedly. Following or counting your breath. Paying attention to the flow of sensations in your body. Cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and other healing emotions. Concentration on geometric shape or other simple visual object. Visualization of a peaceful place or a healing energy or entity. Reading and reflecting upon inspirational or sacred writings. Gazing at a picture of a holy being or saint. Contemplation of nature. Chanting praises to the divine, whatever, there will be so many things. Okay, so this is just, there are so many things to talk about. Right? So, to make a long story short, purpose of human life is happiness. We should get happiness as much as possible. For that, you need right mental perspective, right mental outlook. Right mental outlook means a way of seeing things in accordance with the reality, the law of nature. As I said yesterday, the law of nature doesn't discriminate, doesn't segregate, doesn't make discrimination. It's stupid human beings which is making all these distinctions. This is Indian, this is Tibetan, this is Muslim, this is Hindu, and everything on my side is good, other sides are not good, they are bad, they should be destroyed, they should be killed, they should be exploited. I mean, this stupid human mind. Our mind is when our mind is narrow and stupid, like even some of the scientists and others, who in the beginning they spoke about this geocentric universe. Now we have found that it's not geocentric, it's heliocentric. In those days, why they said geocentric? Because human beings are on the earth. Therefore, it should be the most important thing. Others should be chakar karna chahiye isko. This is how we think. And we think I am the center of the universe, everything should go around me, and I should be the one who controls everything. Aisa nahi hona chahiye. Right? So give space, connect with others properly, not in a stupid way. Use your head and heart together, right? And one thing that I would like to repeat again is, how long you live, that is not that crucial. If you really live healthy, long life, useful, good life, of course it's good, it's wonderful. Now even if somehow it doesn't happen, not much to worry. The important is, when you live it properly, nicely, in a beneficial way. Once there was an argument between the rose flower and the thorn, which is supporting it. तो थॉर्न ने फ्लावर को बोला कि आपका ज़िंदगी क्या ज़िंदगी है, 2 दिन फूल देता है फिर आप मुरझाते हैं, हाँ? Just you stay for 2-3 days and then you have no such stamina, nothing. Look at me, thorn. If anybody dares to touch me, I'll prick back. So your life is so fragile. So then the flower said, yes, it may be true. You are able to stay longer than me. But in your life, you have always been pricking, harming others. My life may be short, it might be 1 or 2 days, but everybody likes me. They smile when they see me. They become happy. So we should be like that, you see. Right? Okay, so I should give you some opportunity to ask questions. Right? Yeah.
So you mentioned about Mao Zedong there while you were talking, and you mentioned that some people get puffed up when they get a little power or money or anything like that. So, and also another thing that you mentioned was that what? You mentioned that it's one should keep oneself away from the person with negativity, and not because that person is more destructive than the negative emotions itself. But what I know, and that Buddha said that it's the negative emotion that we should be really warding from, not the person who is carrying the negative.
True.
So that was another point there. So in terms of Mao Zedong's example, because what I see is that he also inspired some kind of ism like Maoism that actually is being followed by a number of parties across the world, even now these days. So what you really wanted to talk when you were saying that Mao Zedong, you mentioned Mao Zedong as a person who got puffed up with power and all. And also another thing is that Nietzsche also says that it's not the Apollonian God who he actually believes in, it's the Dionysian God who he really wants to be, the kind of person in his real life, when he is talking about that thing in Zarathustra. So, yeah, I want
Okay.
your responses on that.
Okay. So number one, because I'm given this chair, I'm speaking and sharing my perspective. It doesn't have to be 100% correct. If you don't agree, you have every right to disagree. That's number one. I'm not saying you're not agreeing,
That's
but
good that we should agree.
exactly.
Then the dialogue will
Exactly. So that's number one. Number two, whether somebody is good or bad is not judged in terms of how many followers that person has. People who intimidate other people with guns, dictators have seemingly millions of followers. Not necessarily wholeheartedly following, but just this morning I saw two Tibetans together self-immolated themselves and died this morning because of that tense situation. So they do the desperate thing. And I also mentioned that 75 million people lost their life during Mao Zedong's rule. If you are talking about how many followers, 75. No. I know. Just because you provide this opportunity to speak, so I'm highlighting it. So yesterday we spoke about the mobocracy and democracy, things like that also. So unfortunately, I'm not blaming ordinary people, but ordinary people are basically, very gullible. जिसकी लाठी उसकी बैंस बोलते हैं ना हम लोग, जिसकी लाठी उसकी बैंस. उसी तरह, whoever has power, people want to get something. There's no other way, so they follow it. So having a big number of followers doesn't indicate that person is good. But that, of course, we have to judge. Not just me. All of us should judge carefully, think carefully, right? Okay. Then your second question about the negative emotion and the person. Yes, you are absolutely right. The Buddha said, criticize the negative emotion, not the person. But that does not mean to say they should always live with bad people and get influenced by them. Okay? Especially in the beginning of your practice, when you are not very strong, it's important to distance yourself physically. Now, I'm primarily talking about physically distancing yourself from that other person, so that because you are not very strong, you can be easily influenced. But mentally, you should maintain compassion and loving kindness. That's important to make that distinction. Okay? Because in the beginning stage, we can be easily taken into all directions with the influence of people, with the money, with the, so many things. You can easily be influenced, so you need to be a little bit careful. But gradually, when you get that strength to maintain your integrity in whatever situation, then it's good physically mingle with all those people. And in fact, it is important to mingle with bad people and try to help them to change it. If you don't mingle, you can't do that. Okay, but in the beginning, our ordinary practitioners, we should be careful. But mentally, should have love and affection to everybody. Okay. Yeah.
Geshe, you've just we've learned about mind. So my question is, if I'm not my body and my mind, as we just learned, is my boss, then who am I? Am I my body? Am I my mind?
No.
So how am I separate? Am I separate? What is this? Who is my mind ruling upon? Who is this being ruled upon? So who am I? And I have one more question if after this I
Yeah. So this is a very complicated question. People have been asking for thousands of years in the Indian philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, and every other philosophy. So the Buddhist answer is, as I said earlier, everything is designated. If you are not satisfied with this designation and try to find the basis of designation, where is I, you will never find it. And this is not something peculiar to the I. It's similar with your body also, with your mind also. Okay, when I say this is your body, you're satisfied, okay, no more question. But if you keep on asking, is this my body is just the head, just the hand, just the leg, or just the whole of it? You ask this, keep on asking this question, you will not find a correct basis of designation, which like the scientists who have been trying to find that fundamental particle, which they want to call it fundamental building block. Very vigorously, through very powerful scientific instrument, they try to discover it. Finally, they say we can't find it. Still, they are looking. So that in Buddhism, especially in Madhyamika Buddhism, we say this is trying to find the basis of designation, which is useless effort. You will never find it because everything is just designated. So apart from the designation, it's very difficult to believe because we have this tendency to have something that is concrete, which we can say, oh, this is the person. Now in my case, you ask this question, okay, apart from body, apart from mind, there should be an I, right? But no, there's no I, no such separate I. It's just designation labeled on the body and the mind. But the fact is that the I, there has to be a separate I, then the body and mind is, because we normally in our ordinary conversation also we say, today my mind is not happy. Today my body is paining. My body, my mind. So mind and body is what belongs to the I, and I is the owner and the possessor. So now if you try to look at that I, you won't find it. It's just a designation. If you are satisfied with this designation, okay, you see my body, then Geshe Lhakdor, I saw Geshe Lhakdor. But Geshe Lhakdor is not the body, not the mind. Right? Because of this connection, you say, yes, enough, I saw him, I met him, I took a picture with him, things like that. So that is a very difficult but very important. Because our ordinary mind really wants to find something which you can pinpoint, yes, this is it, I found it. That's why our mind wants to have something that is permanent, something that is called Atma, self-supporting, self-sufficient. And when you don't find it, you get scared. Abhi kya ho gaya? Mera identity hai nahi, because you want something concrete. It's not that you don't have an identity, but your identity is very fluid. And this search is not done only by the Buddhist or Buddha, but this search about I has been done by many Western philosophical thinkers. They also ended up in the same situation. Now they call it the fluid, the slippery I. The fluid I. It's very slippery. You will not be able to catch hold of it. Okay? So this will really help you. Next time when you talk about I, you will not have that strong grasping, less grasping, just designation.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
So I think it will also be helpful in understanding the previous answer more better. But since I've come here, we've seen a lot of prominence given to logic and reasoning in Buddhist tradition and philosophy. So my question comes, is logic supreme? Can everything be explained through logic? If not, then what lies beyond logic, or should whatever lies beyond logic, should it be validated, or is there any need for it? Or whether
The
logic
purpose
is
of using logic is to find the truth. Okay? Then at the end of the day, you should be able to experience that object directly, direct perception. There are no involvement of logic. Okay, I spoke about these three types of phenomena. So at the end of the day, it should be proved through direct evidence, direct perception, either by your senses or by your mind. So it's not just dry intellectual exercise, but you should be able to pinpoint it.
Geshe, so this is something I fight with on a regular basis. You talked about meditation. So why is it that despite Am I audible? I can just see it. So why is it that despite knowing that some spiritual practices like yoga and meditation um, is good for us, for our mental and physical being, we cannot manifest it on a regular basis, right? So how do we disintegrate the negative energy of laziness?
Laziness. Laziness comes, of course, different people have different physical, situations. Some are not lazy, some are overactive. Some are very lazy, they're always fond of sleeping, lying, things like that. So it depends on your physical constituents. And also because you don't have a bigger goal, right? So therefore, when in Buddhism, when we talk about the 6 perfections, the antidote to laziness is effort, perseverance. When defining effort, it is said effort means delighting in what you do, enjoying what you do. If you enjoy what you do, there's no room for laziness. When you are not enjoying, either because the speaker is not good, or because you are tired, or you are not interested, then very soon you will start sleeping, you see. So, and then when you play like football or volleyball, nobody sleeps while playing football, right? Because you are enjoying, you are active, you see. Things like this. So how much you really like, the key question is how much you really enjoy your life, how much you really enjoy what you do, okay? So therefore laziness also, there are many different types of laziness. One is called, laziness means laziness, just sitting there, becoming a couch potato, not doing anything, as we normally understand. Second kind of laziness is not just not doing anything, you are doing something, but you are doing negative things, bullying people, exploiting people. These are also counted as laziness, because you are lazy towards doing good things. And then third is discouraging yourself, looking down upon yourself by saying, yeah, this is important, but I'm not intelligent, I can't do. Belittling yourself, that is also laziness. So there are many different types of laziness. Another is called laziness of postponement. But you want to do something, but say, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow comes, oh, I'll do it the next day. Next day comes, oh, I'll do it when I have school holiday. So in this way, you keep on postponing it because you are basically interested in something else. You don't see this as very important, right? So therefore, it is number one, you need to see the importance of those things, and then delighting in it. Then there will be no room for laziness, and you can't be lazy in that sense. Yeah. Okay, they do.
Geshe, so I have a question, but before that I have an extension question of what Purva asked. So this is coming from the context of non-dual spiritual traditions which I have been followed, that when we say who am I, and when we try to find the I, exactly we cannot find the I, but what we find is the emptiness. And that emptiness is sometimes like referred to as the universal I, or the consciousness, or like, so that's how it's been referred in those traditions. So is that like one is like when we try to find individual I, like who am I, what's my individual identity, then we cannot find it. But what we find is emptiness, and that emptiness is referred as universal I. So what are your reflections over this?
Yeah, my understanding is that when you try to find something, instead of finding that, when you find the ultimate nature of that thing, it is the ultimate nature of that thing. The ultimate nature of that thing cannot be itself. Its ultimate reality. Yes, I do know there are traditions who probably, if you converse with those traditions, they might say God is also emptiness. Emptiness is also similar like God or things like that, and they personified things like that. But according to Buddhism, it is the nature, ultimate nature of anything. It's the nature of that person, not the person. It's the quality of that person, characteristic of that person, not the person. So what you find is, it is ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is that it doesn't have inherent existence. It has only a conventional, nominal existence.
Does emptiness have any characteristics?
Characteristic is that it has no independent existence.
Okay.
It can be realized. It can be cognized. It's also phenomena. It is colorless, shapeless. So these are its characteristics, yeah? Okay?
Okay, I will come to one more question.
Don't
So-
ask difficult questions.
No.
Okay.
So we were given initiation by His Holiness on this full moon day.
Oh, you received that initiation, all of you? No, you are all Buddhist, I know.
Okay. So it was Avalokiteshvara Jin Sagara initiation
Yeah.
of highest yoga tantra.
Yeah.
So I received the initiation, but I don't know much about it, what I have received and what I am supposed to do.
Yeah. Many people do that, not only you. Most of the people do that. So I will shock you a little bit. I'll give you this shock therapy. Strictly speaking, when you have no idea what you're doing, when you didn't do the visualizations properly at that time, you don't have the prerequisite, qualities for receiving such an initiation, you actually, honestly speaking, don't receive the initiation. You receive just the blessing. Okay, but that depends upon individual to individual. What was the framework of their mind at that time, things like that. Because when you receive any initiation, you have to have a very good understanding of at least three things: renunciation, bodhicitta, and shunyata. The wish to come out from samsara, renunciation means the wish to come out from samsara, and then bodhicitta means the wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, and then more importantly, shunyata. There's nothing that has inherent existence. In fact, all the tantric, practices start with this Sanskrit shloka, Om Svabhava Shuddh, Sarvadharma Svabhava Shuddh. Om Svabhava Shuddh. Om Svabhava Shuddh. Om Svabhava Shuddh. This word Om is a combination of three letters, which symbolizes body, speech, and mind. Oma is a combination of three letters, which symbolizes body, speech, and mind, which basically means the person. Om Svabhava Shuddh means that person is by Svabhava, by nature. Shuddh means empty of independent existence. And likewise, Sarvadharma Svabhava Shuddh. All phenomena are pure by nature, meaning that they have no independent existence. So such an understanding is important. And then also when you imagine yourself becoming that Avalokiteshvara, what you need to do is have a very good understanding of shunyata. You reflect upon your own nature, Om Svabhava Shuddh. And you meditate on it so carefully that your ordinary appearance of your ordinariness completely dissolves. Then in that place, you arise yourself from the state of emptiness. You arise yourself into the form of that Avalokiteshvara. So without that understanding of shunyata, you just can't imagine, force yourself saying, I'm Avalokiteshvara, my color is white, not like that. As any other. Because the very purpose of such meditation is to, we use the word mantra or tantra. Tantra means protecting. Tra means protecting. Tan is continuity. Man is mind. Mantra means protecting the mind, protecting the continuity of the mind. Which means a very special, unique practice in Tantra is, ordinarily, the ordinary human mind has this tendency to highlight all the bad things, the limitations, the shortcomings, ye bhi thik nahi hai, wo bhi thik nahi hai, isme bhi nuks hai, is shirt mein bhi color thik nahi hai, ye nahi hai. We keep on highlighting countless, blemishes or faults in everything. And by highlighting these faults, you develop anger, hatred, disliking, frustration. So a unique practice is adopted in Tantra where you can protect your mind means highlight the good things of everybody. And if possible, see this whole universe as a divine mansion. And the beings inside, they are like pure divinity, divine beings. And the place is completely pure. People inside are Deva and Devi, they're completely pure. How will you develop attachment? How will you develop anger? All this will cease. And it is this way that you protect your mind. So that is the idea. So therefore, the reason to cultivate yourself into the form of deity is to block that ordinary appearance. Right? But because you went there with great respect to His Holiness, great interest, some of you may have received initiation, I can't say. But definitely you all have received blessing and left an imprint. And strictly speaking, initiation is like Abhishek, we call it in Hindi, Abhishek. It's like enthronement of a prime minister. It makes a huge difference. If the students are ready, the teacher is ready, qualified, it makes huge difference. The purpose of initiation, sometimes I prefer using this English word empowerment rather than initiation. Because empowerment clearly says that you are now empowered to do the tantric practice. Without that empowerment by the teacher, you might misunderstand, develop misconception about tantra. So you need to be careful because you are trying to follow the quick path, short path. The shorter path are more risky also, you see, more slippery also, right? So therefore it is important to receive that tantric initiation. Now how does it make a difference? For example, if you appoint somebody as Prime Minister today, and yesterday the same person is about to be appointed recognized as a Prime Minister, but not Prime Minister. So in between these two time, there is only one night, right? So in terms of actual capacity and quality and education of that person, there will not be much difference within one night, right? But the previous night when he is not designated, appointed as a Prime Minister, he doesn't have much power. He's an ordinary person. But the day when he is appointed as a Prime Minister, he gets so much power. You see? So this is because it is now empowered. So that is the idea actually. Okay? And then like, so you also have been given some commitments, right? What are the commitments? Having received the initiation, there are certain, because the one that you received is of the Chakra Samvara Luipa tradition. So there is a sadhana that you need to do in relation to the deity. And then in one of the advertisements made by His Holiness office, they said if you are unable to do it, at least you should do this 3 cycles of Chakra Samvara. Yeah, things like that. Okay, yeah. But then strictly speaking, before you receive initiation, you have to be somebody who is following the sutric teachings. Should be a Buddhist, strictly speaking. But His Holiness is not making so much restriction. Everybody will get some benefit. He is not interested in many of this difficult tantric practice. He is really interested in giving that essential message. So don't worry. Yeah.
So, Geshe, my question is, how do I clear the confusion, whether I should help someone or not, based on if the other person is fooling me with appearance, or does that person really know?
Yeah.
So, how do we become wise?
Yeah. That's why I was. This is important question. That's why I was saying develop a fine harmony of head and heart. I use the word dil or dimag ka santulan, meaning that in these difficult situations, when you have to make a decision, your heart will not do much. So it is your head, brain, that is to judge. Take time. If it is a marriage, take time before you decide to marry. If it is a question of helping somebody, yes, it is important to help, but as you mentioned, that person may be somebody, a cheater or things like that. So take time. And then also, that's why in Buddhism we said, it's highly encouraged to practice giving. But at the same time, it said, giving in general is very important. Charity in general is very important. But you should know how to give, when to give, to whom to give. For if there is a monk who is observing certain vows and not eating after lunch, then inviting him for a dinner is not proper. Things like that, yeah.
I was fooled by a conman in Delhi once. He was wearing a monk's cloth.
Yeah.
And he said that some people stole his things, money and all.
Yeah, yeah.
And he needs money for a bus ticket. So I gave him some money and then I thought he's a monk.
So this is something that you already done, so now don't regret.
No, there's no regret, but then... there's no
Don't regret, instead you should say whether he's a fraud, whatever, at least he got the benefit, so enjoy. So in the future you should be careful.
How do I differentiate, Geshe?
Huh?
Because in Delhi we see so many people.
Yesterday I spoke about the difference between appearance and reality. Appearance के पीछे मत दौड़ो, साधु हो या beautiful women हो या appearance के पीछे मत दौड़ो. Take time. It's not easy. I know it is. While saying that we'll be cheated, I know all this, but be careful. Yeah.
Hello, Geshe Lhakdor. What is the difference between Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism? What kind of Buddhism did Gautama preach to the masses?
Basically, we even prefer these days not to call it Hinayana or Mahayana. We prefer to call it Theravada and Bodhisattvayana. Because people sometimes misunderstand these words. When you say Hin, that means a little bit lower, and Tuch, Maha means greater, Both the so-called Hinayana teachings and Mahayana teachings taught by the same Buddha to benefit everybody. If at all you want to use the word Hinayana, Mahayana, it should be referred in terms of the mental level of the individual practitioner, not so much about which country, This is Hinayana country, lower, this is Mahayana country. No. Even in the so-called Mahayana tradition, without using these basic teachings, like Four Noble Truths, 37 limbs to enlightenment, Eightfold Noble Path, these are all basic teachings. Foundational teachings, both for the Theravada and Bodhisattvayana. So there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction. Okay, so it is important for you to understand it. But in terms of the system of tenet or philosophy, one who, as I mentioned earlier, one who aspires to achieve nirvana just for oneself is a little bit I use the word solitary nirvana. Nirvana just for oneself. It's a little bit
Arhat.
Yeah, not Arhat. Arhat, there are Mahayana also, Hinayana also. So one who just achieves nirvana just for oneself is a little bit lower in that sense, because that person doesn't have the capacity to benefit everybody. Whereas one who aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings has a greater mind in that sense. Okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
In Theravada, there was no ideal worship.
Yeah.
But in Mahayana Buddhism, we do find ideal worship.
I don't know. Theravada, if you visit Theravada temples in Sri Lanka, everywhere, you'll always see the Buddha statue.
No, but the data says there was no ideal worship at that point of time.
I don't know. I was not there at that time.
But Okay, my question is that, the Mahayana, is there any chance of Mahayana Buddhism was influenced by the Hindu tradition of rituals, chantings, all these things?
This is a complex, very difficult question. You need to study more. Because there are people who say Buddha was born a Hindu, lived as a Hindu, died as a Hindu. And what is a fact of matter is, Buddha was born in India, that's very clear. And he was living with this community of other sadhus, seers, whatever you call it, you see. So it was not necessarily just Buddhist sadhus or seers, there were a host of such practitioners. In ancient times when there were like small pockets of communities ruled by the individual rulers, they were all like scattered and divided, and then gradually one who is more powerful dominated more area, become bigger and bigger, almost becoming like city and town, then all the crimes started. And by seeing all these crimes, then there are many people who said, now this place is hopeless, let us retire and go into the forest and find a way to solve these problems. This is how Buddha and everybody left their home and went into the forest and things like that. So they all lived together. And then the story clearly says Buddha studied from many of that Hindu or whatever sadhus living at that time. He studied from them. So it is because of this Theravada tradition and many others who say that Mahayana is, forget about Tantra, which is of course not Buddhism. Even Mahayana, so-called Mahayana teachings are not taught by Buddha. Because what is taught by Buddha is found in the Pali tradition, written in Pali. Okay, now this is a very, very difficult question, because it's not only Buddhism. If you read this book by Karen Armstrong, which is called Axial Period, she spoke about the spread of Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, even Socrates and things like that. Now if you trace the origin of Judaism or trace the origin of Christianity, the Bible, the written Bibles, when did it originate? Was there writing at that time? Exactly, same question. So how true these written texts are? Same question. Even with the Theravada, they are recorded much later. There was no writing at that time. I think at least 200 years after it was recorded. So these are difficult questions. These are difficult questions. But people defend this by saying, no, there was no writing, but in those days people had not a lot of time. They are very devoted. Whatever the Buddha taught, they used to recite afterwards. And they also have a phenomenal memory. So they remembered it, and that what they remembered passed on to the next generation. And then later on, when writing came out, they all wrote down this. Now, especially when you come to, say, Kalachakra Tantra, it is one of the latest Tantra, right? Which came somewhere in, I don't remember exactly, 10th or 9th century AD. So much later, you see. So there you can see a lot of modifications. With the change situation, there's a lot of modifications. How to deal with women, and then the astrological calculation, and even a deeper explanation about the atomic particles, So Buddha did not teach all this, right? So some people say Buddha taught it. Some people say it's not taught by Buddha, but those scholars who followed him sincerely, they wrote this down, thinking that if Buddha is still alive at this time, this is what he should have said. So I don't know. And then more mysterious things is like Shambhala. Where is Shambhala? And all these things,
And so one last question: what is the current order of Buddhism which is followed by most of the people in the world? Which one is the current one?
Most of the country, like basically, if you divide it into two, Theravada countries and the Bodhisattva countries, or Mahayana countries, then Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, they follow Theravada. and then China, Korea, South Korea, of course, now, and then Japan, then Mongolia, and then all the Himalayan regions, Ladakh and all these regions. Then Tibet, they follow Mahayana.
Hello, Geshe. So there are 4 parts. So first I have an apology. Second, there is a moment when I felt deja vu. And then I have 2 questions. One based on the extension of what Ganesh and Purva asked. And third's a question on one of the claims that you made. Okay, first of all, apologies. Because when I came here, I was unaware of basically the Tibetan way of living and all. So last day when we met His Holiness Dalai Lama, I basically did the prostration and said the prayer. But I didn't do it without much conviction, because I was also having doubts regarding as to what we are doing. But right now, after your teaching, I realize that why we are doing. Because love and affection can give a person an a reason to live longer. And I guess this is in alignment with whatever you have taught. As in, even when a child is born, the first thing that a child cries for is for love and affection. So now I am fully convinced of it. I was not earlier. I guess now I told you about one of the books that I got from the Tibetan library. In that also it was written, so you have to test everything, you need to reason and experiment, and then you will get a conviction, and then you form your faith. And now I have complete faith in whatever I am doing.
Wonderful.
Okay, that's the first about. And the second part is that the deja vu moment. So you just mentioned about the need for cultivating one's mind.
Yeah.
So this, I feel deja vu because there is a book that I read on it. It's called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I guess that is the starting point for me to think about for me to introduce to the idea of cultivating the mind. So I guess I have already told this. My introduction to Buddhism came from the Western literature. So this is a very good starting point that I feel. Now, 2 questions. First is an extension of what Ganesh and Purva said. It's about I. Who am I? So I said very jokingly once, like I completed my graduation recently, so just days before. So whenever my friends used to ask me, oh, you're going to Dharamshala, like you have place, you're not in there, why are you going to? So I said, like, I'm going to figure out as to who am I. But that was more of a fun sense. It was not intentional. But just today, I got the answer that you cannot figure out as to who am I. It's like a slippery slope. And you mentioned about the geocentrism. Like humans are on the earth, that's why Earth is more important. So my question might be very naive, because you have already told us that for some people, God is essential for them to make sense of the world. And for some people, it is not necessary, but they can make use of it. So my question is it because of is it because some people hold on to this idea of I, that God as an entity is very relevant to them, because God is a very strong concept for them? Is it because of them holding on to this concept of I stronger that they need God to make sense of the world? That's the first question. Second question is based on the claim that you made that the law of nature is to do good, is to do positive things. Because the same claim is used by people on the other side, saying that it is the survival of the fittest, attributing it to Darwin, but Darwin never said that statement. It is one of the commentary made on Darwin. So law of nature is always to fight and find out who is the strongest. So, but your claim is that doing positive things and this is what the law of nature is. So we will be going out and we'll be discussing with people. So when I'm hoping that people will challenge the statement as to the law of nature is doing goodness. So can you just elaborate on that too? Thank you.
Yeah, whatever we do, whether it is believing in a God or doing any other chore, we do it basically with this strong grasping to oneself, basically. Therefore, as somebody correctly said, you create the world that you know, or that you think, that you imagine. You create a world according to your imagination, your thinking. And beyond that, how are you going to think about a world or other thing? It's dependent upon how you imagine, how you think. So you create a God also in your imagination, in your image. Right? Now, is this useful or not useful? I'm not talking so much about who is right, who is wrong, which I explained earlier already with the example of the medicine, which is the best medicine. I explained it. But what I'm saying is, it's very interesting that at the end of the day, whatever philosophy you accept, even if it is wrong, but if you use that philosophy to bring harmony, to help others, it looks like it is working. Because in each of these traditions, believer in God, not believer in God, believer in karma, not believer in karma, you find many good people, good-hearted people, very nice people. So what matters is really the message, not so much about the philosophical question. Philosophical question is important, but more than that is the message, how you live your life. Now, for example, when you imagine God as a fatherly figure, it may be there, it may not be there. But when you imagine that there is a fatherly figure, at least you have somebody to pray to, somebody to get the solace. That's the purpose. It's not so much about whether there is one really there or not. Again, depending upon your attitude, imagination, you drive the benefit, or you even drive the harm or whatever. Right? So it is beneficial in that sense. What was the second question? In one word.
About the law of nature.
Huh?
Law of nature.
Law of nature. So when I say law of nature is good, not in the sense there will be no cyclone. Law of nature में cyclone भी है ना, tsunami भी है ना. They are very destructive. But all I am saying is, law of nature is honest. It does not discriminate. When you don't discriminate, when you don't create division, then there will be, of course, less problem. Human beings making so much discrimination. Men, women, this country, this religion, that religion. And whichever category or class you belong to, you tend to see it as the most important thing. Right? As I have repeatedly said. So in that sense. And then law of nature is also good in the sense. Some of these horrible dictators, if there is no law of nature of death, imagine if these people never die, live forever, you will forever become, generation after generation, you will suffer. But law of nature will come and say, okay, it's your time, come. You have to die. Death is the equalizer, the leveler, doesn't make any discrimination. When it is your time, you can't hide yourself in a bunker. Many of these dictators are doing that. And in the Buddhist text, it is clearly said that when death comes, there's no place to hide, not in the space, not in the depth of the ocean, not amidst mountain. There is a story of somebody, gentleman, who was in his marketplace. Then somebody tapped him behind from the shoulder. And when he looked back, he found the messenger of the death was there standing. He was scared to death. He said, "What? What happened?" He said, don't worry. I have not come to pick you up today. Your time is next Tuesday. I'm looking for somebody else. And he said, thank God, I still have time, 1 week. So he left the marketplace, ran into the mountain and hid himself in a cave. Until Tuesday, he did not venture out. Then early morning Tuesday, he said, now today is the last day, so I'm sure there is nobody. And this is actually a desolate place, there should be nobody. He just craned out his neck and said, okay, finally I'm okay. Nobody looked around, and then somebody from the back, tap. And then he expressed his surprise. How did you figure me out here? I said, don't show me this surprise. I'm more surprised than you. Because the Lord of Death has actually told me to pick you from here, but I saw you in the marketplace, so I was kind of surprised. So that means there is no place you can hide. No place you can hide. So I really, from that point of view, I really thank profusely the law of nature. Otherwise, this destructive, negative people will be there, creating suffering for so many people. You see? Nuclear bomb bhi nahi chahiye, kuch bhi nahi chahiye, they will die. Yeah.
Geshe, I have 3 questions.
Yeah.
First one is, we have seen a rising trend in recent years about people from the West following spirituality, meditation, yoga and Ayurveda, and many of them come to India to explore it further. Meanwhile, we have all of it right here, but the majority of us tend to reject these ancient traditions and values and idolize the West. And so what are your views on this crossover and what can be done so that we appreciate our roots and get
So
back
let me explain this first. Grass is always greener on the other side. That's what I'm saying. You don't realize the important things that you have. Huh? Even when you go to a restaurant, you order your food, and then the other fellow, who you may not know, order other food. And then when that food comes, you think, oh, I should have ordered that one. This is human mind, And then also, that's number one. Number two, we are very much drawn to sensual objects, something to see, immediate sense gratification. We run after this. We are embodied beings. We tend to cater only to that we can see, touch. Don't bother about those that you can't see, like mind or God, whatever. Those things, those forces that you don't see, you don't pay any attention. So this is one reason. But the Westerners have to some extent enjoyed a lot of the material prosperity, and they have started seeing the limitation of the peace and happiness that they can get from material prosperity. So they have, there's a cycle, then they are now searching for the satisfaction of the mind. Whereas in our case, in the case of the Tibetans or Indians, whatever, we say, I practice Buddhism, I practice Hinduism, but we don't actually practice. है हमारे पास, हम सोचते हैं मेरे पास है, लेकिन नहीं है आपके पास, मेरे पास भी नहीं, आपके पास नहीं, because we don't practice. And we think we have. Because you don't practice, you don't get the benefit, and therefore you think, okay, what is really necessary is material development. इससे भी कुछ भी नहीं मिला. That is how we think. You see? So that's the reason. Okay? Second question?
Yeah, my second question is that many people see spirituality as a means of escape from taking responsibility for their karma at times. And instead of viewing it as a way of life, they use it as an excuse for not being held accountable for causing trauma or any other harmful actions. So then how does this work? Because having this mindset itself destroys the purpose of practicing this in the first place.
It depends. You can't make a clear-cut explanation to everybody. It depends. There are hypocrites, right? There are like even monks, even sadhus, not necessarily practicing. They make religion as another way of earning money, marketing, business. We are all human beings, जो भी हथियार हमको मिलता है उसको इस्तेमाल करके पैसा बटोरना है ना. राम नाम जपना प्राय मलापना. Huh? That's what we say. So something like that. That happens with many people. But as I was saying, whether you call it mental exercise or spiritual exercise, out of these human activities, when we talk about human activities, we can do it either physically or verbally or mentally. There are only 3 possibilities. The physical and verbal activities are very much controlled by the mind. That's very clear, mind or the spirit. So therefore, if you really practice spirituality, or these days people prefer calling spirituality rather than religion because of many reasons. So if you practice that spirituality and thereby regulate and transform your physical and mental activities, of course there is a lot of benefit. But then there are others who just talk about spirituality, they think, and don't do anything in the society that's visible. They may be talking about nirvana, enlightenment, they may look happy, but they don't do anything in society. So because of that, it becomes very difficult for people. ये लोग तो मुफ्त में खाना खा रहा है, बोल रहा है, लेकिन करता कुछ भी नहीं है, क्या है? You see, that's the thing, right? So therefore, it is important that for us also, not only talking about other people, for us also, when we talk about compassion, for example, you have to have the compassion. If you really have the compassion, which is wishing that others are without suffering, if you really have that, it will naturally move you, get up, go and do things for others. You don't do that because your compassion is only a lip service. You see? So therefore it is difficult, not easy, because we don't practice. So the real knowledge means something that will make you get up, go and do things for others. Right? वो नहीं है ज़्यादातर. Most of people are engrossed doing things for themselves and not about other people. So therefore people don't pay much attention to these things. Right? Now, contrarily, if you really practice what you preach, then all the ills of the society, exploitation, corruption, division, all this will disappear from the society. That's the real source of change, of course. But to reach that level, we have to have people who do, not only talking, you see, who think more about others, not just about oneself. Just like what you do in your family, you see. The father has to work, the mother has to work, the children has to work. Together they try to improve the family, and they make a lot of progress. Now especially for yourself, how many times you eat, how many times you wash yourself, कितने सालों से कर रहा है. In a similar way, if you do it with the extended family and the society and the country will rise like a shooting star. There's no question about that. But the thing is, we don't do. कूड़ा कचरा भी मेरे घर में नहीं होना चाहिए, बस आगे होगा तो ठीक है, यहाँ से निकल के वहीं फेंक देते हैं. Right? So therefore, as somebody correctly said, you judge yourself by what you think you can do. People judge you what you have done, not what you can do. So therefore we need more active, on the one hand, of course, deeper spiritual practice, then also to give confidence, encouragement to others, we also need to come out and do concrete things for the happiness of the society. Okay, third question.
Yeah, this is related to what you were talking about yesterday. So we now know that compassion and patience are signs of strength and not weakness. But because of these virtues, others can take you for granted and also hurt you and not take you seriously. So how do you draw a boundary and still remain true to yourself while also trying to protect yourself and continue doing good? Because sometimes doing good for others can also become confusing and frustrating.
See, this need a lot of practice, as I mentioned already. Because when you talk about cultivating these inner qualities like compassion and patience, you are not doing it as a business. If you expect that if I am compassionate and patient, I'll get more friends, they'll give me more money, they'll give me more support, then your very practice is rotten. Take the example of the four elements. The earth has been supporting us millions of years. Did it ask anything back in return? Similarly, the water that we use, the air that we breathe, they don't ask anything in back. So in the Bodhisattva practice, it is encouraged that you, as much as possible, try to be like one of these elements, not expecting anything in return. Now, not expecting anything in return doesn't mean you won't get anything. These are all very paradoxical, The more you expect, the more your practice is ruined, and it's very much possible that you will not get anything. In Tibet, many of these practitioners who renounce so many things, they come out with this statement saying that when I was an ordinary person, lead a married life, things like that, I toiled and worked so hard, but I had difficulty getting food for my mouth. Now when I renounce everything, do this genuine spiritual practice, the actual statement is like this. At that time, my mouth could not find food. Now the foods are not finding my mouth. That means so many people are making offerings, supporting, things like that. Right? So therefore, if you genuinely, do things, you will not the one who will suffer. Right? For this, of course, you need determination, integrity, strength, and then more importantly, wisdom. Okay. ऐसा नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि मेरे ऐसे करने से समाज क्या सोचेंगे, क्या करेंगे, गोली मारो समाज को. Because of course I'm not saying goli maro, I'm not saying that don't pay any attention, not paying any attention. But what I'm saying is the people's way of life and thinking is such that if you just keep on paying attention to what they are saying, what they're thinking, and try to tailor your life in accordance with it, you will not have any idea how to live your life. Because ordinary way of people is that if you're sitting, they'll say, why she is sitting? If you're standing, they will say, why she is not sitting? I mean, it's people's way to say something, you see. So you can listen, but use your brain.
Geshe, I just want to add on to what Preeta said. Yesterday, we were at the supermarket outside, and this really kind man gave us a scooter. We were supposed to go somewhere, and then we were waiting for a taxi, and he's like, okay, will you come back in an hour? Then just take my scooter and go. So he doesn't know me at all. We were meeting for the first time. We spoke for 2 minutes, but then he gave me his scooter, and then I went, and I'm a decent person. I came back, I gave it to him. But then, when you're doing such things, I have a scooter too. I don't even give it to my relatives because I'm always kharab kar dege. How do you explain these acts of kindnesses? Because I was blown away. I was there was a very good chance that, I could have been some scamster who would have just taken a scooter and gone and never returned it back. So when you're indulging in these kind of actions, there's always that risk of that you can be at a loss eventually.
Yeah. No, it depends who that person is. Now, for some people, please sit down. For some people, like Milarepa, they have given up everything. Not only scooter and other things, ले जाओ, सब कुछ ले जाओ, कोई बात नहीं. सब कुछ ले जाओ. अगर there is a phrase saying that if you want my flesh, take the flesh. My bone, take the bone. My blood, take the blood. When you have no grasping, then let them take whatever they want to take. They are not worried about that. It is said that through your continuous spiritual practice, when you reach certain state, when you have no grasping, then even if people chop your hand and things like that, it will be like somebody chopping piece of vegetable. We have this tremendous amount of pain and things like because you have so much grasping. Mera sharir, thoda sa, pricked by small thorn. Mein kya ho gaya? Spiritual nopamang. That means one who is so sensitive like that, there will be so many harms and pains. Not so much from outside, but because you're, not being able to tolerate anything. So he may be one of those who. There are many possibilities. There's not one solution. One, it's also possibility. I'm not trying to be negative or positive. I'm just talking about many possibilities. One is he has been using this scooter for a long time, so he doesn't have much. It also happens, Are mera khatara le jao tum kya hai? आने से भी ठीक है, नहीं आने से भी ठीक है, ऐसा भी हो सकता है. और दूसरा तुम्हारे शक्ल से कोई गुंडा नहीं लग रहा है तुम. नहीं लग रहा है तो बेचारा शरीफ लग रहा है, ले जाओ कोई बात नहीं. So there's not just one explanation, there will be so many explanations. But of course that was an act of kindness, which is good, yeah. But don't think that everybody is like that. Yeah.
I forgot what I had to ask. Okay, yeah. So, Geshe-la, you just mentioned how Buddha said that don't do anything that is negative. But is the absoluteness of doing nothing that is negative possible?
No.
Yeah, because even when you breathe, you're killing bacteria.
Yeah. No, it's not so much about breathing, because not doing negative or doing negative means intentionally doing negative things and positive things. Okay? Like for example, unintentionally you are walking in McLeodganj, you trample ants and other insects. You have no idea, you are not intentionally doing it. It's a little bit negative, but not so horrible. But you intentionally say, I must trample this ant, and then do like this. And then there is more negative.
So, does subconscious negativity also adds to karmic effects? And also, does positive karma, the accumulation of positive karma, they also force you into another life? So, if you have to attain nirvana or probably enlightenment, then how do you see this? Because even if you're doing something positive, you have to take another birth to sort of have that gratification or bring that back.
Not necessarily. It can be in this life, it can be today. The ripening of the result may be today, maybe tomorrow, maybe after 1 month, maybe after one life. It depends. When we talk about karma, there are so many karmas. Some are very heavy. We call it heavy. Okay? If you ask the question, which of these countless karmas that you have done before, which one of them will give their fruition first? Then they say one which is the heaviest. If there are two karmas same in heaviness, then which one of the karma that you have done recently will give fruit first? Things like that. So it depends upon intensity, time, and so forth. Yeah.
Just one last.
Yeah.
One last.
Yeah.
Geshe-la, what happens when everybody is enlightened? Supposedly, hypothetically, everybody attains enlightenment.
Then everybody is smiling, laughing. How are you? But it's almost, as right in the beginning I mentioned, it's almost an impossible thing. So this is a good context. I want to share you something that I read recently. It says that in life, you should not worry. This is a very interesting that I recently read. In life, you should not worry, because either you're healthy or you're not healthy. If you're healthy, of course, no need to worry. If you're not healthy and sick, then again, no need to worry, because there are two possibilities. Either you will die or you will recover. If you recover, no need to worry. Okay? Now if you die, again two possibilities. Either you will go to heaven or to hell. If you go to heaven, no need to worry. But if you go to hell, you will meet all your majority of friends down there. And you will pass all your time shaking hands and saying hello. Okay. Yeah. Maybe last question. Yeah, last question. Okay. Second last.
So we know that our body and mind are interconnected and dependent in some sort of way.
Yeah.
So when our physical body is suffering,
Yeah.
it affects our mind.
Yes.
And when our mind is suffering, it also shows in our
Yes.
physical
Yes.
sense. So how do we create a distinction or a distance between both? Like, how do we say that? So I'm suffering physically. And how do we keep our mind intact? That no, I'm physically suffering. So how do we keep our mind calm and collected? How do we do that? Are there any practices?
Yeah, as I already mentioned, that if it is something that you can change, don't worry, because you can change. If it is something you cannot change, no use worrying because you can't change. So that's the perspective. Okay? Then also with your physical suffering and problems also, one thing that I wanted to tell before I stop is that it's not only mental exercise, physical exercise is also very important. Going out into the nature, into the wood, and then, many of the so-called tensions that we get these days is because always, most of the time, is sitting on the chair and looking at the computer. You see? So make it a point to get up at least after 1 hour, peering at the computer, get up, a little bit of stretching. It makes a huge difference, just getting up. If you do some exercise, it's wonderful. Okay? As we say, there is issue in the tissue. You get this tension, bag of everything because there's no proper flow of energy and things like that. So go out, do something cheerful. It's very important, very important. Have fun. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think this is the last question.
Yeah.
So, although I believe I'm very underread, but still, for the past few days I've come
Under
to
what?
Underread in
Okay.
psychology as well as Buddhism.
Yeah.
But for the past few days I've come to understand that both of these are very, very similar and they often complement each other also.
Yes.
So be it the book that Ajay mentioned the other day, Man's Search for Meaning by the German psychologist M. Scott Peck, or another one that I recently read by the American psychologist, by Viktor Frankl, and The Road to Life by M. Scott Peck. I find them quite similar. So my question is, how can we take the help of Buddhist teachings, philosophy or meditation to overcome mental afflictions like childhood and adult trauma, schizophrenia, psychosis, etc.? Afflictions which make you lose your mind and your senses and also lose sense of reality at times. If you could suggest some books to understand Buddhism's role in overcoming trauma and mental illnesses. Thank you.
So I can give just a general explanation. Mental afflictions, as I already mentioned, much of this is dependent upon your so-called negative disturbing emotions. Not only the negative emotions present in the mind of the person, but present in the mind of the surrounding, family members, things like that. So the cure for many of these illnesses is spread of love and compassion among the majority of the society. Okay? Many of these unfortunate things happening in the society are clear indication of lack of love, lack of affection. Nobody taking care of each other. Everybody is running after money. Everybody is trying to take, so long as the money is forthcoming, everybody is ready to exploit and cut each other's throat. That's the problem. So that's important. Then at the same time, it's not just mental exercise. Sometimes it is really important to do the correct, medical treatment. It's very, very important. Let me give you an example. For example, once I accompanied one of the top Tibetan physician, doctor. He's a personal physician to His Holiness who came from Tibet. And I was invited to accompany him to translate his talks. So I visited the 4 Scandinavian countries. That's a long time before, when I was a student, they invited me. Somebody suggested that. Then I went there. So then there was this, there are few scenes that I can never forget. One was this young man that the families brought. He had a car accident. And his back was really bent and crooked, and they have to come supported by these family members. And then we sat in front of the Tibetan doctor. He gave what we call as the moksha bhushan. At certain particular vital points, they give this treatment, moksha bhushan. Moksha is a kind of grass, and then they burn it. On the top, they make it a canonical shape, and then burn it. And then as soon as it touches that particular point, it gives a sound, explosive sound. And then after doing this, the Tibetan doctor said, now see whether you can stand up without support. He stood up without support. Then he said, now try to walk without support. He walked without support. And he was crying. He said, did you do a magic? You see, my point is, sometimes when you really meet the proper doctor, if there is a kind of any part of your body is malfunctioning, the flow of the energy is not functioning properly, they can rectify it. It's not just through meditation or things like that. And then also the food, so many things. So there's not one solution. The mind is very important, but you can't solve all the problems just thinking, unless you are highly advanced meditator. Okay, if you are very highly advanced meditator, then you can yourself figure out where is the blockage and how to remove it, all these things. Yeah. Okay, thank you.